The following program is brought to you by PodcastOne Sportsnet.
This episode of the Steve Austin Show is sponsored in part by DDP Yoga. Hey man, working my ass off in hundreds of matches over the years, it ain't no surprise that my body's taken its share of bumps and bruises. It's been well documented, all the surgeries I've had. Yeah, my buddy Diamond Dallas Page knows all about the wear and tear the ring takes on your body because he'd been there, done that, just like I did. He was in the business of professional wrestling. Turns out his DDP Yoga fitness system was specifically designed to burn fat, reduce pain, and heal up from injuries. And just check out this list of folks he's helped out with his program. Other guys like myself, Scott Hall, Gold Dust, Chris Jericho, Edge, Jake Roberts, A.J. Styles, and now even Drew McIntyre and NXT's Bobby Fish are adapting the DDPY program. Listen up, man. Dallas is so positive that you'll absolutely love the DDPY program and using the DDPY app that he's doing something he ain't never done before. He's going to give you 7 days free to try it out. Listen to me. That's a week to try the program, explore the app, and own your life, and it's completely free. My favorite four-letter word. DDP Yoga can work for all ages, weights, and fitness levels. It's a kick-ass cardio workout that will dramatically increase your flexibility and strengthen your core like never before, all with minimal joint impact. And for those baby boomers out there, Dallas has introduced another game changer, the DDPY Rebuild DVDs. These DDPY workouts are for those with limited mobility. And yes, you can also find DDPY Rebuild on the DDPY app. You can even do a workout sitting down or lying in bed. Just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show, you can save 20% off an annual membership for the DDP Yoga Now app of any DVD pack. Just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin to get started.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I'm sitting here at 317 Gimmick Street doing the opening of this podcast. I'm sitting in my podcast chair from Clutch Chairs. It says Austin 316 on it. I'm about to stomp a mud hole in this podcast and walk it dry. My guest on the show today is A.J. Kirsch. We used to call him Tumbleweed during the filming of Tough Enough during Season 4, way back in 2011. Well, it turns out AJ and I have been keeping in touch with each other for a long time. We don't talk every single day, but every now and then he'll call or I'll call or whatever and just shoot the shit and talk about what's up. AJ just blew out his knee the other day, had some surgery, had everything fixed, and he called me out of the blue, and we were shooting a breeze, and I thought to myself, man, AJ, he'd be great for the podcast. Articulate, eloquent, always has something to say, and is very good at saying it. So I said, hey, dude, let's do a podcast. So I called him up, and we start shooting a breeze, and we talk about the Tough Enough experience, his background, what he's doing now, what he wants to do. Just a great conversation. The dude has the gift of gab. He was a communications major at Chico State University, so that doesn't hurt anything. The guy knows how to talk. And so we fire up a conversation, and it's going to last about an hour 15 minutes. And I'm shooting a breeze and catching up with a guy that I really, really think highly of. Good head on his shoulders, good kid, hard worker, and great work ethic. He's my guest today, and I could sit here and piss and moan and complain about all kinds of stuff, but I ain't going to. I got A.J. Kirsch waiting to get on the podcast. Before we get to A.J., I want to introduce you to one of my new sponsors, TheraWorks. If you're one of the millions of Americans who suffers from muscle cramps in your legs and feet, relief is finally in sight. TheraWorks Relief is a topical foam that's clinically proven to relieve muscle cramps fast, and with daily use, TheraWorks Relief can even prevent muscle cramps before they start. The results speak for themselves. TheraWorks Relief is the real deal. TheraWorks Relief is a life-changing product, and best of all, you don't even need a prescription. It only takes minutes to apply, absorbs quickly, and it really works. TheraWorks Relief is my choice for preventing and relieving muscle cramps. It's time you made it yours as well. Get TheraWorks Relief today at select CVS, Rite Aid, and Walgreens pharmacies, or at TheraWorksRelief.com. That's TheraWorks Relief.com.
There's never a dull week in the world of professional wrestling, so to keep up on all of it, be sure to subscribe to the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast here at PodcastOne. I produce 2 new shows each week. Every Thursday on our flagship show, I'm joined by a co-host from the wrestling journalism field to talk about the hot topics in WWE and elsewhere. Every Friday, I'm joined by a guest who has worked in the wrestling business, including ex-WWE creative team members like Kevin Eck talking about Drew McIntyre.
Drew was a young guy, and did it go to his head, and did he walk around like he was the chosen one? He did, and I was frank with him, and I said, Drew, just so you know, this is how they view you.
And PodcastOne's own Christian Harloff, talking about his days working for WWE and Vince McMahon specifically.
As far as the perception of him, I mean, he's the king. He walks in, and it's just, you can feel it. I mean, if the Force was real, you would feel the Force powering into the room when he enters.
Just search Wade Keller on Apple Podcasts or on the PodcastOne app or anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
All right, official check 1 2, check 1 2. This is Steve Austin coming from 317 Gimmick Street. I got A.J. Kirsch, one of my former contestants from Tough Enough. I don't even remember what season it was, but it was 2011. That's been, Jesus, as I do the math, at least 7 or 8 years ago. A.J. Kirsch, still in the Bay Area, affectionately known as Tumbleweed for part of the Tough Enough show. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing great, Steve. Always a pleasure to talk with you. And yeah, it's hard to believe that was 7 years ago. I think it'd be airing right now if it were 2011. So hard to believe that it's been 7 years, but you know, it's been a hell of a ride since, and I'm still just having a great time.
Hey, man, you and I have been talking on the phone for the past couple of weeks. You just had a knee surgery, and you blew out your ACL. What did you do that knee?
Yeah, so I blew out my ACL and my meniscus, and I also had a sprained MCL at the time. And so, you know, when it happened, I immediately tried to put some weight on it, couldn't, tried to walk it off, couldn't. You know, it got better in the following couple days. I could eventually walk on it and get around without any pain, but after that MRI, it was just a complete fustercluck in there. So I was like, you know what, surgery's the way to go, and that's why I hit you up. I was looking for advice on how to deal with surgeries, because God knows you've seen your fair share when you were running hot.
Man, it's just, it's a whole mindset. I'm used to go, and everything like that, and I'm used to being 100%, and when I'm anything less than 100%, I just don't feel right. But, man,
you and me both.
As you know, because I called you just a few weeks after we had that initial conversation, and you were able to, you know, get your mind right and not be too bored.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about more than anything. Like, my knee was in good hands with the doctors. I was very fortunate in that it happened at a shoot, and so I became an employee of the production company that was putting on that shoot. So workers' comp covered everything. So I didn't have the weight of a financial burden on my mind. I was most worried about having to slow down, because anybody who knows me knows that I thrive in a rather relentless schedule, and I pride myself on being able to make that work. So when this happened and I realized I was going to have to be forced to slow down, that's what was kind of plaguing my mind more than anything else. And so, you know, since though I've come to appreciate it, I think slowing down has been good for me, and it's kind of allowed me to not just recharge mentally and physically, but kind of, you know, start thinking about things that I might not have given the attention to when I was going 100% nonstop.
Hey, man, everybody knows you from Tough Enough, and that was a while back, so a lot of people never saw that show. Were you a wrestling fan your entire life?
You know, it was around 1996. I was 12 years old when I really became a diehard wrestling fan. Like, I'd been aware of wrestling in the 80s, and as a kid, hard not to be, with the likes of Hogan and Warrior and Andre and all these just iconic names. But it wasn't until I was flipping through channels in March of 1996 when I was just kind of like, to this day, I don't even know how to describe it, but I was just immediately captivated by what I was seeing. And it was just a few weeks leading up to WrestleMania 12 with Shawn and Brett in the main event with that spectacular Iron Man match. And I feel bad for people who became wrestling fans more recently, because in March of 96, it was just on the verge of one of the most exciting times to become a wrestling fan, because just 2 months later, Scott Hall pops up on WCW Nitro. The following month, you know, not to blow smoke, but Austin 316 was born in June of 96. And man, after that, and then all of a sudden ECW starts making noise. So it was just an extremely exciting time to first become a wrestling fan. And I like to tell people it was a phase I never grew out of, and it's a phase I'm still in to this very day, and I hope I never grow out of it.
Hey, you went to Chico State University, right?
Yes, sir. Class of 2005.
2005, so with a degree in communications.
Communications, yep. And actually, at the time I graduated, I got my 4-year degree in 3 years because I wanted to get a jump start in pro wrestling. I knew my body had an expiration date, and I was like, I want to get in school to get out of school and get started wrestling.
So what were you going to do with the communications degree?
Well, the reason I chose that degree was because at the time, when I first got into college, I was actually a really shy kid. Like, I had not opened up. My personality was nondescript at best, and I was just super shy. And so I was like, you know what, if I'm going to get into wrestling, and I already decided that I was going to pursue pro wrestling, I was like, I need to get really good at talking in front of people. And so I took public speaking classes, argumentation and debate classes, critical thinking, mass media and propaganda. And all of these obviously play a huge role in the ability to not only talk in front of, but captivate an audience. And so I went from being like, I did a rookie speech tournament my first year, and it was about why people should respect pro wrestling. And this was, 2002 or 3. So it was back, even then before it was still as, easily accessible as it is today. So I went from being a super shy kid my first year in college to being nominated to speak at my commencement ceremony when I graduated in 2005. And to this day, I maintain that they didn't pick me because I told them my speech was going to be about professional wrestling. So they picked a kid who, came from nothing and is first in his family to graduate. Now, don't get me wrong, super inspiring story, but I was like, I'm glad I got to college, but now that I got my degree, peace out. I'm going to become a professional wrestler.
Hey, what kind of high school student were you? Because obviously you were highly driven in college, but how were you in high school? Were you valedictorian, or were you a really book smart kid?
Book smart, yeah, straight A's. I took a couple AP classes, so I already came into college with a couple units, which is what ultimately helped me graduate a year early. And none of it was exciting for me, but I was just like, if this is the game I have to play right now, then I'm just going to do the best I can with what they're asking me to do. So yeah, pretty much straight A student, 3.8 or 4.0 GPA pretty much all the way through. But as good as I was academically, I was a total dork socially. Like, me and my friends, our idea of a good time was just like staying up late playing video games. Like, I didn't get drunk until after my, senior year of high school, and I didn't, I was just kind of a dorky kid. But me and my friends, we had a lot of fun, and it wasn't until even I graduated college that I really opened up as a performer.
Well, when you were in Tough Enough, I mean, good physique, you put a lot of time in the gym, you still do. Did you play high school athletics? Were you involved in sports at all?
So there was a point in high school when I was really fed up with how I looked and how I felt, because I was a doughy kid and I just didn't really feel good about myself. And, I actually remember reading an interview with Mick Foley, who said, if you are too young to join a wrestling school, join your high school wrestling team, because a lot of the fundamentals that you learn in high school in amateur wrestling translate really well to professional wrestling. So I had a friend talk me into joining the water polo team the prior semester just to kind of get me in shape and to get me moving. Lost a little bit of weight there, and then and I joined the wrestling team because, man, that is going to get your ass in shape real quick, real quick. And so between my junior year and senior year of high school, I went from wrestling in the 189-pound weight class to the 154-pound weight class. And to this day, like, if anybody out there is listening and wondering how can I get a jump start on pro wrestling training, the drive and the discipline with your workouts, your diet and training, all those things, to this day, I credit to joining the wrestling team in high school. So if you're wondering how to get a jump start, how to get in shape, join your high school wrestling team.
What are you doing with respect? I know you're injured right now, but how are you doing your training, and how are you doing your diet and your macros and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, so nowadays, since I got this bum wheel still, it's basically an upper body field day. So I'm just getting my pump on as much as I can at the gym. I haven't missed a day. Literally, the morning of my surgery, I woke up early and worked out, leg day, of course, because I knew it was going to be the last one for a while. And then the next day I was back in the gym hitting up the body. But, you know, a wise man told me to not overdo it, to not push myself. I'm not trying to pack on any muscle. I'm just trying to keep the blood flowing, stay loose, and stay sane.
I wonder who that was that told you that.
Yeah, I don't know. He had a lot of other bullshit around it at the time, but he was on it with that one.
Hey, man, let's go back and talk about your Tough Enough days. What prompted you to join up and come on out there and be a part of that show?
I think anybody listening to the show at one point has dreamed about being a WWE superstar or a professional wrestler. I know that there's this, you know, whatever you want to call it. Everybody's dreamed about stepping foot in that ring. And I decided somewhere in high school that I was going to give it an honest to God go. And so when I heard that they were bringing Tough Enough back, and I think to answer the question at the top of the show, technically it was season 4. And I think it's on the network too. So if you want to check it out, it's Tough Enough season 4 on the WWE network. And I saw that it was coming back, and I was just like, you know, somebody has to be on that show. Why not me? I think that's the attitude you have to have if you're pursuing anything. Like, it's like somebody's got to be in that spot. Somebody's got to get that award. Somebody's got to be on that show or whatever it is. Fill in the blank. It's got to be somebody. Why not me? And, you know, I got pretty good in high school with editing and shooting footage and putting together an application video. And I remember actually the moment I dropped it in the mailbox, I was just like, well, here goes nothing. Like, I had fun making it. If this is where it ends, then cool. But you know what? At least I gave it a shot, because there's nothing worse than coming across an opportunity and then wondering, what if? You have to act on it. And acting and failing is infinitely better than never acting at all. So dropped it in the mailbox, got a call from a casting director. And then after a series of extensive phone interviews, I was told to pack some bags, enough to last me 6 to 8 weeks. Flew me down to LA and ended up, you know, of the, I think 34 or 35 people that they flew to LA, half of them flew back and the other half were the cast of Tough Enough. And man, we didn't get a day to prepare or nothing. We went straight from the hotel in LA to that unbelievable palatial estate in Simi Valley, I think it was. Correct. And you and Bill, Trish, and Booker proceeded to beat the hell out of us for as long as we could take it.
Yeah, and for everybody wondering, the name of that ranch is called the Hummingbird Ranch, and they tried to sell it a couple of years ago. They might still be trying to sell it, and it was like $100 million property. It was spectacular. I actually had, you know, they had the big house where you guys were staying, and I had my own little crib.
Right.
And then, you know, Booker, Trish, and Bill had they were kind of sharing living quarters. But man, I was out there. It was like golf course grass. I had my Hershey the Wonder Dog was still alive, and I throw the tennis ball for out there. It was like, you know, it's always fun to people always ask me, they said, Steve, you ever going to open up a wrestling school? I was like, no, I don't want to open up a wrestling school because I don't really have time. And, you know, Tough Enough was the closest thing, you know, I wanted to do to still be a part of the business and the business, right. Help guys and gals coming up in the business and actually help them learn. So that was like the greatest gig in the world. So I had so much fun doing that.
Yeah. And I think they converted the, I think it was like an equestrian, like estate or something. Like they had horses, and the main place where we trained was the stable, and they converted these stables into our training ground, which I just thought was the coolest thing. And then you mentioned throwing the ball for Hershey. By the way, rest in peace, Hershey. I wasn't aware that she passed, so my condolences. But I remember waking up early one day and just stepping out on the balcony of this room, and I think I had to have been you. It had to have been you, just kind of jogging up and down. You had Hershey right next to you. And it was just one of those moments where I was just like, I can't believe this is real life right now. I can't believe this is real. Like, as a fan of wrestling and as somebody who has aspired to be a WWE superstar, I just felt like I won the life lottery. And I say in interviews, I had to literally remind myself out loud that I wasn't dreaming. It was pretty surreal.
One of the biggest things I loved about that show was, you know, Eric Van Wagenen was the showrunner.
Yeah.
And we all showed up, and, you know, I knew Booker, you know, me and Booker, man, we had some great matches together, and I always liked working with him a whole lot. Me and Trish have hit it off like gangbusters ever since I met her. And Bill DeMott, that was my first chance to really be around Bill, and we clicked really good. And for some reason, the four of us just had this instant chemistry, and I'll never forget it. And one of the things that was so great about that show, as you know, because you've done shows, you do acting, you do commercials, there's always an angle, or there's always an agenda.
There's a story to tell.
Well, there's a story to tell, but the genius of Eric Van Wagenen during that was he'd come up to me and say, "Hey man, Steve, here's kind of what we're doing," and there were no notes, there was no paper, there were no scripts. It was really a total shoot as far as what we were doing. You know, Bill would do his thing, Trish and Booker were wonderful, and they just told me, "Here's what we'd like to do," and then I would go out there and do it, and we would all do it together. So it really was about as close as you could get to a shoot as it could be, and that's why I enjoyed it so much, because I was completely at ease and at comfort being Steve Austin, a Stone Cold Steve Austin, whatever. But from a contestant side, how was that for you? I mean, was it nerve-wracking going in? What were your expectations, and for a shoot, how did you jive with the other contestants, and as far as your day-to-day existence?
Well, this was the first time I'd ever done anything like this. Like, I've done a couple reality shows since, but this was my first taste of any kind of environment where you are not, it's not you show up on set early in the morning and you go home that night. Like, you are in this as long as you can possibly survive. So to be in that kind of environment, first answer was nerve-wracking as hell, because I knew the pressure was on. I knew millions of people were going to be watching, and I'm trying to impress guys that I grew up watching, one in particular that revolutionized the business. And so I realized that, you know, shit was on. And even I remember this moment specifically as well, like when Bill, Booker, and Trish, they start putting us through the paces, and then I hear this rumbling from behind me as we're all doing crunches, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And you ride in on this big-ass Harley or whatever it was, and then you just start marching around like a damn drill sergeant, and you had that stare, man. And I remember standing in line those couple times where I was on the chopping block to be eliminated, and you would just stand there and stare at us for what felt like an hour or something. And there was no music playing in the background. Like, that's added in for effect. It's just silence and this ring creaking as you're walking back and forth. And that stare, that stone cold stare, man, like on TV is one thing, but when you're looking into it and it's looking back at you, you're a scary cat.
Thank you. Hey, what kind of training did you put in before you got there, just as far as your lungs? And had you had any professional wrestling training?
Yeah, so I started training in 2003 at a school called Pro Championship Wrestling, which is currently based out of Oroville, California, about an hour away from Chico. So as I was earning my communications degree, I was also doing wrestling training 3 times a week. So I'd make the, 1 hour drive to, the 1 hour drive back, and I would do that 3 times a week as I was going to school. So, I trained for 6 weeks, broke my ankle doing something stupid that I should not have been doing. So I had to learn that lesson the hard way. And then as I was healing up, they brought me back first as a referee to just kind of get acquainted with being in front of a crowd. And more than anything else, though, to learn how the guys communicate with each other and how to be a tool for the guys as the match is happening. And then they eventually put me in an angle where I was, on somebody's payroll and part of a faction and everything. And then I ended up getting my comeuppance, of course. But that's how I was kind of integrated into professional wrestling. And so I had my first debut match in 2005, and it seems like a long time when you say it, 2003 to 2005, but I was way more worried about not stinking the joint out the first time I went out there than just putting on tights and boots and, yeah, I'm a wrestler now. Like, I took it about as seriously as I possibly could, and I wanted that to show in my first match. Like, of course, everybody, they fantasize about what their first match might be like, but for me, the match went great. I wrestled my trainer, Mr. Primetime, so I was in really good hands. And he's actually still training guys at Pro Championship Wrestling. So I was in good hands. My mom and dad came out. My friends from high school came out, and they had to deal with me for years just talking about how all I wanted to be was a pro wrestler. So as far as the first match goes, I was thrilled and grateful to this day how it actually went down.
Now, I was pacing around, kind of being scary or whatever you said. Bill was the guy. Bill was barking pretty loud back in. We actually had to rein him in a little bit. I think he's walking around stepping on people's heads and stuff like that. And I was like, this is a little much. What were your thoughts about Bill? I mean, because he rode you pretty hard, but I think he meant it in a good way. But he was pretty rough on you.
I agree with that. Like, I agree with the fact that he rode us in a good way. Like, here you got guys that have, M-Dog Matt Cross comes in with years of international experience and could probably blow anybody away as far as in-ring work. And then you've got guys like, oh God, what was her name? Michelle, I think, 10 years, right? 10 or 12-year veteran, and, didn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. So, you have all these different breadths of experience, and you guys are coming from this generation where it's like, well, when did these guys ever pay their dues? What right do they have to be here? And so, coming from a wrestling background with, I think, 5 years under my belt at that time, I understood that. So, of course, we would expect you guys to run us into the ground and see who wants to be here and just who's looking for their 15 minutes of fame. So, Bill, I always tell everybody, because I know there's been some controversy around him, but I always tell everybody, in my experience with Bill, he was tough, but every bit as fair.
What did you think about Miss USA? I always mess her name up. Remember we were doing the drills?
Rena Faki.
Yes. I thought she was wonderful. I really like that chick. And she wasn't made to be a pro wrestler. And watching her try to take some of those beginning bumps, just a forward roll. It was just, and she didn't, you could see someone's face because you'd been training for quite some time and it had matches. So you came in there ready. But all of a sudden, when you see someone try to take their first bump, you really get a chance to look in her eyes and say, some people are allergic to that canvas, that mat.
Right.
And bumping will automatically signal those people. And so she was kind of allergic to bumping, but I just really enjoyed her. She was spunky. She had a little bit of attitude to her. She was beautiful.
Right.
What were your thoughts about her? She was quite a character.
She was. I think that's one of the reasons why she stuck around as long as she did, because like you said, not a lick of wrestling talent, never trained a day in her life, but she had some attitude. And so she was a captivating character. But I have a couple feelings about when I saw her, try to do a forward roll. First, in my mind, I'm like, it's a competition. So I'm like, oh, I'm good. From here, as far as the physicality go, they called me tumbleweed because I can roll like a son of a bitch. So I'm not worried about that. And then at the same time, though, when she tries to do a forward roll and it's like she just sticks and then just kind of falls over.
She pile drived herself.
Exactly. She ended up looking like an exclamation point. I felt good from a competition standpoint, but then I'm just kind of like, oh, man. I remember my first day and I was able to get through forward rolls pretty good. But you're right. Some people, they look back at the canvas before they bump like it's not going to be there when they throw themselves back. And so it's not easy to get that, for lack of a better term, that trust with the canvas, and just knowing that you breathe out, you tuck your chin, you protect yourself, you'll be okay. As soon as you start second guessing yourself, and I think that's what messed her up with the forward rolls. She was going, and then she's like, oh no, and then started thinking about it too much, and then just ended up keeling over, which is a problem I think a lot of people have when they first start out.
Since Tough Enough, and I told you guys, I said, that we're in Tough Enough, but you're going to find out what Tough Enough is when you actually try to get into the wrestling business, because the wrestling business is way tougher than what we're trying to do here, but it's a foot in the door. So have you kept up with any of your people that were on the show with you? I mean, because, like you said, M-Dog Matt Cross as Son of Havoc or whatever it is with Lucha Underground. Martin Casals as Marty the Moth. Evilise has done really well in Lucha Underground.
Eric Watts is he's killing it right now in SoCal. Yeah, he's doing championship wrestling from Hollywood. In fact, he just got back recently from a tour of China. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood just did an event in China with this unbelievable production, and it just looked like $1 million. And so I know Eric Watts is still getting after it, and he looks better than ever.
Well, see, Eric Watts was a guy who I thought had a ton of potential, and he just didn't show it within the time parameters of that show. And, all of a sudden he's out of there. But when you looked at the guy, I mean, you thought, hey, man, this guy's a monster. He could really, really be good. And then all of a sudden, it's nice to hear that he's still doing well. Do you keep up with any of the other guys?
The guys you mentioned are actually the ones that I'm closest to. I see Matt Cross, every couple months when he comes to Northern California. Me, Martin, and Eric are probably the closest. The little group of friends that came out of that. As far as the other ones, I don't really keep up with them too much. Jeremiah, Luke. How funny is it that Ariane, the first one eliminated, and she ends up getting signed for however many years. Wrestling, but Eric and Martin, the three of us have become friends, and it's really cool still to see, like you said, Matt Cross is just. Every time I look him up on Twitter, he's tweeting from Switzerland or England or Lucha Underground. And so to see him still doing so well, considering how long he's been at it, not just before Tough Enough, but since, good for him, man. He's making it work, and it's really cool to see.
What were your thoughts that night where I had to take your belt from you?
I understood why. I had some rough days going into the day when I got eliminated, and something to this day that I remember Bill saying when you guys were in the office, right? That was adjacent to the training ground. I think he said one good day does not a career make, or something like that. And I got why. I knew why I was eliminated. That whole Christina ended up getting hurt with me in the ring, and that was largely my fault. Had Martin not broken his ankle, I think I would have been out of there a little earlier than I would have been, because he wasn't eliminated. He had to withdraw. And in my opinion, had he not gotten hurt, he probably would have ended up winning the whole thing, because he's talented in the ring and he's super charismatic as well. So a combination of, me being able to buy some time with that injury, and I was just fortunate enough to last long enough to have my shining moment on the show during that promo challenge. And I totally understand that it wasn't enough to save me, because as Bill said, all those rough days, I had a good showing on a skills challenge, but disappointed, of course, but I completely understood why.
How was it going out there and working with The Rock? And, of course, he put you over very strongly on your promo, but you got a chance to spend some time in the ring with him.
Yeah, going back and just putting myself in that is still pretty amazing. I mean, I got to roll around with The Rock. I think you even beat the crap out of me a little earlier on in the show. That didn't make air. So, again, just another one of those moments where I'm just like trying not to mark out, like trying to be a professional and, feel like I belong there. And two, just trying to relax. And that's something that I think he ended up saying to everybody after he locked up with the remaining contestants. He's like, everybody's so stiff. Like, you guys got to relax when you're in there and just make it look like you're working, but don't actually work that hard. And so just to be able to say things like that. And it's, again, I'm eternally grateful for every second on that show, both the highs, the lows, and to be able to have that moment to just be able to look back and just be like, yeah, I've enjoyed a hell of a journey. And so just nothing but gratitude.
What was your preparation process going into promo day? You knew it was coming, and you knocked it out of the park. What was your motivation, or what was your focus, and as far as your performance went? Because it was awesome.
Well, thank you. But not to correct you, but you said I hit a triple. You said I didn't knock it out of the park. But but you were right though. I knew where I was in the contest. I knew I wasn't doing well, and I knew I had to come out swinging. Not to overuse the baseball metaphor, but I knew I had to come out swinging, and so. I think what made that promo effective in my mind was that I meant every single word that I said. Nothing about it was for the sake of a performance, or it was less about the match that Bill and I are supposed to have at SummerSlam, which was the premise of the promo, and more about why we're having the match, giving the audience that I pretended was there a reason to care. And that reason was 100% legit. It was, I'd had some rough days, and you guys were up my ass about it, and I had to come out and make a point. And I feel like I made that point. Hearing that from you guys is what mattered. So to hear that feedback from you guys and to see your comments once the show aired just made me feel really good about it. But I had to mean it. People can see, especially nowadays. I think if people come out there and they're trying to just rehash something that they read in the back or something that somebody told them, the fans nowadays are smart enough to just be like, I didn't buy that. And if you can't attach your own emotion or your own visceral feeling to something, it's going to fall flat. And I didn't want it to fall flat, and I don't think it did.
Hey, since Tough Enough is over, you've moved on, and we've been talking. We basically kept in touch ever since. I mean, it's very sporadic, but I've got your number. You got involved with Hoodslam, and
yes,
you
sir.
were basically the MC or the host of that show. And I was watching one of the matches with Brian Cage and a guy that was the Predator. And you're basically calling the match, on a live RF mic to the house.
Correct. Yeah.
And you're dropping F-bomb after F-bomb. Tell me about the origination of Hoodslam and how you're able to you guys were able to get away with the language and how you go about your process. I mean, it was very entertaining to me, but I'm a guy that cusses a lot.
Right. Well, might have to have your finger on the sensor for this one, because spoiler alert, there's going to be a few F-bombs in how I describe Hoodslam. So, well, to kind of back up a little bit and bridge the gap here, it was that promo that helped me realize that perhaps my contributions to professional wrestling would be more valuable behind a microphone than in the ring. Like, I always felt like I could have a good match with just about anybody. I feel like I've been super safe, but I don't think I hurt anybody unless they didn't tell me about it. But I was like, you know what? As far as my longevity of my career, I think I could start transitioning to hosting, ring announcing, and commentary. And so some of the advice that Bill gave me shortly after Tough Enough was just work as many different places as you can. Just get out there and work. And at the time, I had not had any experience with Hoodslam. This is early 2012. So I asked the promoter if I could drop by and check out a show. He said yes. He was just like, you want to do some commentary? And I was like, sure, why not? Nobody there cared that I was A.J. Kirsch from Tough Enough, because Hoodslam is not your typical wrestling crowd. They're not your just, whenever you think of your typical wrestling fan, that's not who's at Hoodslam. The crowd at Hoodslam is a crowd who's just out for a good time on a Friday night, who wants to drink a little, rock out to some live music, and some smash mouth over the top pro wrestling. And so I quickly realized that if I'm going to stand next to characters like Drugs Bunny, like the Mexican werewolf El Chupacabra, who was the Predator, by the way, Dark Sheik, WWE and WCW, they had the Steiner brothers. Hoodslam has the Stoner brothers, Rick Scott and Scott Rick. If I'm going to stand next to all these crazy characters, I got to come up with a character of my own. And so I wanted to be a heel because I was so sick of being a face. I have so much fun being a heel. I was so sick of being like, A.J. Kirsch from WWE Tough Enough. You saw me on TV. Yay. Fuck that. I wanted to get the fans riled up. And so I was thinking, who would this crowd hate? This crowd would hate a bro. And therefore, Broseph Joe Brody was born. And I just put myself out there as an arrogant douchebag frat boy bro. I come out to Nickelback, I spray Axe body spray on myself, and immediately it's just, fuck you, bro, as soon as I'm out the curtain. And it's the most fun I've ever had in wrestling. And we do, like you said, so I do the hosting, the ring announcing, and the commentary is live. It's over the PA. The fans can hear it, but it's a 21 and over show. In fact, one of our slogans is, don't bring your fucking kids. So you know that this is not your little brother's wrestling. So I'm out there, and I'm dropping F-bombs and SH bombs, and, we're very clear that Hoodslam is for a 21 and over audience. So we can get away with drinking and other things that are not necessarily allowed everywhere. And we have a live band. But before anything else, Hoodslam is a party with pro wrestling. It's literally the most fun I've ever had in my entire wrestling career. All due respect to Tough Enough. Those were some stressful days, and learning under you guys was the thrill of a lifetime. But as a performer, nothing has come close to Hoodslam.
How long did it take you to come up with the name of Broseph?
Broseph Joe Brody. So it didn't take long, actually. The character comes from, like you said, I went to school at Chico State, which is a notorious party school. So I was around frat culture, never in a frat myself, but I was around frat culture all the time. As a lot of wrestlers do at one point in their life, I was a bouncer in a club. So I was constantly around just these douchebags that are puffing out their chest and, starting fights and parts of my own personality make up the gimmick. Like, I'm a total gym rat. And also, people don't believe me when I say it, but I fucking love Nickelback. Nobody believes me when I say it because they're the world's easiest band to shit on. But I love Nickelback. And so when I put all these characters all these parts of this character together, I'm just like, what's a name? Like, I'm a firm believer that if you can't describe somebody's gimmick in 10 to 15 seconds, then you're not gonna get anybody's attention. Stone Cold Steve Austin is a beer-swilling, finger-flipping redneck that has a particular affinity for beating the crap out of his boss. I'm sold. I'll watch that all day. So Broseph Joe Brody is an arrogant, ultra-masculine douchebag bro who sprays Axe body spray on himself and tags bro at the end of a sentence like it's a period. Like, I have a very extensive vocabulary. Don't even get me started.
All right, let's take a quick pause for the calls and get big ups to True Car. Now, if you're looking to buy a car, you're probably familiar with terms like MSRP, and you might even know what it stands for. But what does it actually mean? Same goes for invoice, list price, and dealer price. It's enough to confuse anybody. All you're really looking for is a price that actually means something. Introducing True Price from TrueCar. Now you can know exactly what you'll pay for the car you want, including fees and accessories, before you even get to the dealership. TrueCar dealers will show you the true price on cars like the one you want, all from the comfort of home. And how do you know if your true price is a great price? Because TrueCar shows you what other people paid for the same car you want. And your certified dealers know this, so they set their true price competitively so they can win your business. So when you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features not available in all states. You're also going to need car insurance for that new vehicle. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance at geico.com. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today.
I'm not going very far.
It's too uncomfortable.
I'm in a hurry. Sometimes I just forget.
There's no such thing as a good excuse for not buckling up. You're not only putting yourself at risk of injury or death, it could also cost you lots of money. Cops are writing tickets, so why take the risk? Do the smart thing and start buckling up every trip, day or night. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
All right, listen up. If you're digging the Steve Austin Show and need more rapid-fire takes on the sports world from the most expert voices, then take a gamble on R.J. Bell's Dream Preview each week on PodcastOne Sportsnet. Get everything you need on the biggest games each week from pregame.com's Wise Guy Roundtable with host R.J. Bell and some of the biggest names from the world of sports betting. Subscribe and listen to R.J. Bell's Dream Preview exclusively at Apple Podcast, PodcastOne.com, and the Podcast One app. Also, remember to rate and review. We always appreciate your feedback. All right, before we get the rest of my conversation with A.J. Kirsch, let's talk about WWE Network for a minute. The WWE Network is an online video streaming service where you can stream every WWE pay-per-view live, watch more than 10,000 hours of video on demand, get a look behind the scenes with WWE's groundbreaking original series and documentaries, access anywhere, anytime, on any device, including game consoles, TVs, phones, tablets, and computers, and watch every stunner and mudhole stomping by yours truly, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that's the bottom line. Now listen up. Through June 18th, we have a special offer just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show. New subscribers get a 2-month free trial when they sign up for WWE Network at wwenetwork.com/Austin. Your 2-month free trial includes WWE Money in the Bank on June 17th, featuring the Money in the Bank ladder match, plus Rowdy Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship, and WWE Extreme Rules on July 15th, where for one night only, the WWE throws the rule book out the window and anything goes. So get on over to wwenetwork.com/Austin to start your 2-month free trial, and that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
You're a very articulate, eloquent young man with a good head on his shoulders. So explain to me about Nickelback, because I'm a fan as well. I think they're a great damn band, but they are a polarizing band. People either love them or they hate them, and a shit pile of people hate them. I don't get it, because I think they make good, solid, straightforward rock and roll music. Where's all the heat coming from? Can you explain that to me? Because I don't know.
I honestly don't know either. I don't know when Nickelback became the cool band to hate, but at one point they became the punchline for every bad music joke.
They did.
I don't know how it happened. And I think they're a victim of their own success in that respect, because they've sold 50 million records worldwide. Some of their songs are some of the most instantly recognizable. And you know what's funny, though, is that people are quick to bash Nickelback publicly, but as soon as I get somebody one-on-one, they're very quick to be like, okay, you know that one song, How You Remind Me, or Rockstar, or Photograph? I actually really like that song. And maybe after a few drinks, I'll sing it at the top of my lungs. We'll see what happens. So the hate, I just think they're the trendy band to hate. But that kind of makes me love them just a little bit more and shout it from the rooftops and be like, oh, you don't like them? Well, fuck you, I love them.
Well, who else would you listen to?
big rock fan. So Aerosmith, Metallica, AC/DC, them and Nickelback. AC/DC and Nickelback are like right up there for my all-time favorite bands.
Well, see, it's interesting to hear a guy your age, because you're a lot younger than me, and you're naming bands that that I still love that were hitting their prime when I was a kid. So where are the newer bands other than Nickelback? Because I'm a big believer that, I don't know, the music has changed so much. And there's some Greta Van Wise. There's a couple of bands out there that are kind of scratching the surface, but for some reason, I just don't get into anything new. I'm still digging the old stuff. And you being a young cat just named a bunch of old stuff other than Nickelback.
Yeah, well, I think good music is timeless. If you go back even earlier today, I was at the gym. I was listening to like Zeppelin and Hendrix and guys that to this day just there's nothing like them. Nobody sounds like them. And I don't know if that's a casualty of the music industry nowadays, but I agree with you that there are not a whole lot of new bands that I just gravitate towards the way I did to the ones I just named.
You said you were a dorky, shy kid coming up.
Yep.
I was watching a video before you and I talked, and you were on what you call Dating and Naked, or
Dating Naked, yes.
Dating Naked. Yeah. Okay, to go from this shy kid, shy doughy kid, and all of a sudden you're on this show. Tell me what was up with that experience and how that was.
After WWE Tough Enough, the goal was still to get signed by WWE, so I started pursuing other avenues of entertainment because I know they want to be able to send their guys and do TV shows and talk shows and all this stuff. So I wanted to expand my repertoire. So I got a casting notice for a reality show called Dating Naked, and I was just like, you know what? Somebody has to be on that show. I think it should be me. Why not me? That sounds like a blast. Like a dating show where you're naked. And by the way, it's shot in Panama in June over a week. So I was looking at this like a vacation where I get set up on dates and I get to be naked. And like at the time, like as I like to say, I had gotten my fit together. I'd gotten in shape. I was training on the regular. I was eating super clean. So I had gotten in the kind of shape where I'm like, you know what? I don't mind being naked. I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. And as I was taking my clothes off for the first time, because there's like camera people around me and they got a boom mic, and this poor crew has been on this island for like a month. As soon as I saw the girl I was gonna date, as soon as I saw her naked, I'm like, oh, well, this doesn't even matter anymore. Like, what's the big deal? Here's mine, there's yours. Who cares? We're here right now. Let's have some fun with this. And so I actually came back from that show way more comfortable in my own skin than when I went. And so it's, another one of those surreal experiences where I'm waking up in this little villa in Panama and the sunrise is coming up over the ocean. I'm just kind of like, look where I am right now. This is insane. But it was a great time.
Okay, well, like I was telling you about Tough Enough a while ago, Eric Van Wagenen would say, hey, man, here's what we're trying to do. Just go do it. What were your instructions on that reality show?
Right. So,
or what you can talk about, let's say it that way.
Right. The producers were clear about the story that they saw unfolding as the show went on, as they started getting more and more footage, because they didn't know what they were going to, keep in and edit out. But they were, they would pull us aside every now and then and be like, here's where we see this going, but you do whatever you want. So it was a little bit, they gave their insight and they said, here's how we think this would make for an interesting story. But ultimately they let us, do what we wanted to do, because I think, and that's one of the big things about reality TV. They're like, oh, well, how real is this? Going back to your point on Tough Enough, like you said, that was about as close to a shoot as you can get for reality TV. Dating Naked, about as close to a shoot on reality TV as you can get. So I think, just because it's like right there in front of your face, reality TV, people immediately write it off like, oh, bullshit. But from my experience, Tough Enough and Dating Naked, those were pretty, like 98% reality.
Okay, I didn't get a chance to see the finish of the show. Were there any sparks there? Anything happen? I'm not talking about sexual activity. I mean, Were there any sparks there? Was there like, okay, after the show, you guys were going to see each other? What happened?
No. No, there were not. Me and the girl, we did end up like choosing each other, so we ended up matching at the end. But to be quite honest, for me, it wasn't a choice. It was a lack of options. So no sparks there. We didn't continue to see each other after the show or anything, but I didn't take it too seriously. I kept asking myself, if I were watching the show, what would I want to see me do? And then I was just like, I'm already naked. Like, how many more risks can I possibly take? Like, let's take all of the risks. Why not? Let's have some fun with this.
What other risk can you take?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's available online or on demand or anything, but it was the first season. It was episode 7. So if you want to go out and look it up, it's out there somewhere. But all my bits and pieces were blurred out. So it's still, it's not like rated M for mature or anything like that.
I got a good friend of mine. He's my stunt double in Vancouver, British Columbia, Paul Lazenby.
Oh my God. Yeah, he and I are friends on Twitter. We DM like weekly.
Oh, okay. Jesus Christ. Paul is a super sharp guy, very smart, been in pro wrestling business, stunts. He's doing acting now, as you are. He's been really successful. He's getting busy. And so we're very good friends. As I look at you, you're still a white meat, clean cut baby face. You could be a heel at Hoodslam, but to me, you're this all-American kid. And I don't picture you bouncing. Tell me how you got, and I know you're on a high school wrestling team, so that gave you some tricks. But, and like Paul says in his book, everybody's got a bouncing story. You got a favorite bouncing story for me? And first of all, and tell me how you got involved. This shy kid who was kind of a geek with no self-confidence or maybe some self-esteem issues, which you don't seem to have anymore. And now you're a bouncer playing the tough guy at the club.
Right. So, I mean, I was just looking for a job. Like at the time, I was just looking for work. I had, let's see, this goes back a little bit. So first I got set up I got talked into doing this gig to raise money for a San Francisco based wrestling promotion that's no longer around called Fog City Wrestling. And they did a fundraiser at a bar where they had a raffle. And one of the prizes was win a date with a wrestler. And I was the wrestler. So the woman who won, we ended up talking. And she ended up putting me in touch with somebody who was looking for a bouncer, looking to hire a bouncer at the place where they lived. And, I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 200 pounds. I'm not particularly imposing. They weren't looking for like a bouncer per se. They were looking for more of a host. Like, what do they call it? A brand ambassador, like somebody to feel welcome at the club and just a presence inside just to make sure that nobody does anything stupid. And in my, I bounced for probably 4 or 5 years and rarely had to ever break up a fight. Rarely had anyone swing on me. But my favorite bouncing story is when I noticed that a fight had broken out on the dance floor. As I walked over to break it up, I quickly sized up the situation. And breaking up a fight is pretty easy because the people in a fight are focused on each other. They're not even thinking about the bouncers who are about to break it up. So I come from behind and actually, of all things, I put my left arm around his throat, come underneath his right arm with my right arm. So I pretty much locked him in a Taz mission because I saw Taz use at one point. I'm just like, if I could sink that in real life, nobody could do dick. So I sank in a Taz mission, dragged him outside, and just held him there until the cops showed up. And there wasn't a damn thing he could do about it because I noticed he was swinging with his right hand. So I had that half Nelson on, and every time he would struggle, I would just squeeze a little bit tighter until the cops showed up. So my favorite bouncing story is sinking in a Taz mission to break up a fight.
What are you doing right now? I see all this list of things that you're doing as far as hosting or MCing with the Bad Will. What are you doing right now other than your rehab process? Are you able to work? Are you able to MC? What are you doing to support yourself financially?
Yeah. I'm lucky that this injury has not impacted my ability to talk, as the last 40 minutes, has been crystal clear. So I'm still hosting shows. I'm still hosting, ring announcing, doing commentary, and I'm having a blast doing it. Between what I'm doing with wrestling right now and acting, not only I'm making money, I'm saving money. I'm able to put money away into my retirement every week. And I'm in no debt of any kind. So again, I hate to sound like, a broken record, but super grateful to be where I'm at right now because I'm doing exactly what I want to do right now to make a living. And even with this injury right now, it's slowed down my productivity a little bit. But as you said at the top of the episode, we're so used to go, just nonstop that I think mentally getting used to the idea of being okay with slowing down is ultimately going to be really good for me. And I'm like glad that I don't, like I said, workers' comp as far as treatment for the injury is covering everything. So to not have that financial burden is just, absolutely amazing.
When you go out and you audition for these commercials or parts and whatever, has your communications degree, background, experience helped you with this process? And what is your mindset going into these things? Because for me, when I rolled into an audition, I would be out in my car in my Bronco, and I'd be going over my lines. And I'd think, all right, dude, you got no business being here. There's no way they're gonna want a bald-headed guy with a goatee with a right arm that doesn't straighten out all the way. So F it. Don't be nervous. Just go in there and just be you. Well, It sounds good until you walk out there and you get in there, and it's the one person running lines with you. It's the person who's going to say yes or no, and it's the person running the camera. It's either 2 or 3 people. All of a sudden you get in there, it's kind of nerve-wracking. Matter of fact, for me, it was nerve-wracking, quite frankly, because I'm just not that comfortable in that world. So did your degree help you, and what was your thought process going into the interview process?
My degree did help me, just getting used to talking in front of an audience. And when I say audience, I mean, it could be an audience of one, which is oftentimes way more intimidating. Yeah. It's the worst. The fewer people in the room, the more pressure, because you are under a microscope. Like, I can, Hoodslam draws almost 1,000 people every month. I can walk out there and own that entire crowd. But if it's just one person reading lines and one person running the camera and knowing that they're making the decision, it's like, oh man, shit's on right now. So the degree helped to a certain degree. I really wanted to come up with a different word, but I couldn't think of one. But more than anything, it gets easier every time. Like, I think that if you're, pursuing acting, or if you're ever in an audition process or even any kind of interview process, which is essentially the same thing, just doing it more makes it easier every time. And I think you hit the nail on the head, because when I walk into an audition, it's like, let's just see what happens. Go out there, give them the best, whatever I think that is, because oftentimes you have no idea what they're looking for. It could just be, they like your face, they like your smile. In your head, Steve, you could be like, oh man, they're going to hate my fucking Texas accent. But you read the lines and you walk out the door and they could be like, man, I want that Texas accent. Like I didn't know I even wanted that, but now I want that. So I've even heard stories of guys that walk in and completely botch auditions, and they end up getting the role because, they had something that whoever's making the decisions wanted. And so I'm just kind of like, whatever happens, happens. Know your lines. Walk in as prepared as possible. But just do the best that you can do. And when you walk out, and this is the hardest part, don't give it another thought after you walk out, because I'm hypercritical afterwards. I'm like, oh, I should have said this. I should have done this. I could have said it this way. When it's over, don't worry about it. On to the next one. If they get back to you, great. If they don't, who cares? There will be more. And something else, I realize I can just talk forever, but so apologies for the rant. But something else to keep in mind is they're not there to work against you. They want to see you. Like, they called you into that audition because not to waste your time. They don't want to waste their time. They want to see somebody bring something to the table that gives them the performance they want. And they think enough of your picture or your interview on the phone or whatever it is that they think you have that. So they want to work with you. They're not there to chew your ass out and kick you out the door.
It sounds like to me, you're the same as I am. To me, I would rather be in an arena like Hoodslam 1000, any arena that I've ever played. Give me a live RF mic, have a camera rolling, red lights on, go. You got to cut a promo, you got to sell tickets, you got to get yourself over or get your opponent over or sell a match. That's easy to me. Going into that room, or even still photography, going into a room with just 2 or 3 people trying to, audition. And a lot of times, when you get those sides, they might kayfabe you on the rest of the whole script. That just give you 2 or 3 pages of sides. You learn that. Right. You don't know anything about the character, so you're trying to be whatever it is you're trying to be. And I find going into an RF mic, trying to be Steve Austin or Stone Cold Steve Austin, that was the easiest thing in the world to me, because I turn the switch on and it's sink or swim. Because I'm live, I know the shit's on, and I know it's just going to be sink or swim. When I got up WWF and then it turned into WWE, there were a couple times I went out there and I sank. You sink or swim. Most of the time I swam. And once you get a chance to go out there and you do that, and it's either, hey, man, I'm either going to do this successfully or I am not.
Right.
To me, that and being unscripted, just go out there with a couple of bullet points. That was what I really thrived on.
And me too. And I think that's because there is, and I do promo seminars now, so I coach young guys on how to cut a promo. And one of the things I put over is there's comfort in a character that you know inside and out. And I think one of the reasons that, you can go out there and be Steve Austin and having probably close to no idea what you're going to do, if that's what the situation calls. Like, you may have bullet points, but even if it's just after a show and you're dicking around for the live audience, you have no idea what you're going to say. You know how Stone Cold Steve Austin would interact with that crowd. And that's enough for you to do something that's going to pop them. And so for me, there's so much comfort in becoming this Broseph Joe Brody character. I don't even need to know what I'm going to say. I just need to know that there's my music, there's my cue to walk out, let's pop a crowd. And the more layers you can give a character and the more familiar you can get with whatever character you're playing, whether it's in a ring, on a stage, or in front of a camera, there is comfort in familiarity with the character, which means somebody can just say, go, and you can be like, all right, for how long?
Right. Dude, what are your future plans? Once you get the wheel back, well, how old are you, 34?
34 right now, yeah. As far as future plans, like, I was working a construction job for most of last year, and when I got laid off in October, that's when I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do as long as I can. And because I've been able to turn that into the way I make my living, then it's still kind of fresh for me that I'm able to do what I want to do to make the money that I need to make in order to be a responsible adult. So I just want to keep ring announcing, hosting, doing commentary, bigger crowds, bigger gigs. WWE knows that I'm interested. I've reached out to the appropriate parties and let them know that, if there's an opportunity for me with WWE, then I'd be all over it. But I'm not holding my breath. I'm having a great time doing what I'm doing right now. And so, if they want me, they know where to find me. And it used to be when I was an aspiring WWE superstar that was the end all be all for me. And as an adult now, I've realized that's not how it has to be. If you're truly passionate, you truly enjoy something, you can find a way to make it if you are driven and talented enough. And I think with this all-in event that's happening in Chicago that Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks are putting together, they sold out a 10,000-seat arena in under an hour. Like, that's just mind-blowing to me, and a sign that pro wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, is stronger than ever right now. It is a really exciting time for pro wrestling, and for me to be able to make my living doing that, again, I'm just super grateful to be in the position that I'm in right now.
Man, when you have a degree in communications, you've been involved in the professional wrestling business for quite some time, you're working construction, and you were working construction years ago.
Yeah.
What kind of jobs on a construction site? Because, I mean, dude, I've driven forklifts, I've done manual labor, hauled hay, but I'm not a real construction guy. Although I did help build the marina there in Edna, Texas. I don't know how it's still together. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did what they told me to do. But what do you specialize in as far as construction?
I don't know anything about construction. I was just a basic laborer. They would tell me to, tear this down and clean this up. And, I got somewhat acquainted with, putting up doorways, but I didn't know what like you said, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm amazed that I could even destroy stuff correctly. So a friend of mine hooked me up with a job when I needed one. It was exactly what I needed at the time. The pay was nice, but I think the people that ran it knew that I wasn't going to be there for long. It was just something to pay the bills until the next thing came along. So, but it was fun. I had fun destroying stuff. There were those days where I would just walk around with a broom all day. So those days weren't particularly fun, but working's better than not working. You're either busy or you're broke.
What do you enjoy hosting the most?
Oh, Hoodslam. Not even a contest. And I do, I don't just do wrestling stuff. I do burlesque shows, and I've hosted music festivals, and I've hosted stages at expo, like fit expos, and if there's a stage and a mic, I want to be able to own it. But it's hard to even describe how I feel at Hoodslam. I describe it as a jubilant madness because it really is just an asylum of fun. And as somebody who grew up a wrestling fan, who's in pro wrestling, who is a performer in as many different avenues as I can be, nothing makes me feel more alive than Hoodslam.
And so that still goes on still once a month in the Bay Area?
Every first Friday of the month at the Oakland Metro Opera House. And depending on when this airs, that actually means our next show is Friday, June 1st. And, if you're interested in checking it out, you can get tickets on eventbrite.com just by searching Hoodslam. But remember, it's 21 and over. Don't bring your fucking kids.
Describe the crowd that comes up to Hoodslam.
Mostly a young crowd, but you're going to see some people there who are in their 40s, 50s, and even my mom, God bless her, she's in her 70s, and she comes out to every Hoodslam that she can. And they're just, like I said, they're not your typical wrestling fan. We do have a lot of hardcore wrestling fans that are there, and it makes putting out these different wrestling references that only they get a lot of fun because me and everybody in the locker room, we're all just a bunch of wrestling dorks. Like, we're all trained pro wrestlers, but we all grew up wrestling fans. That's fun to know that they'll get those inside jokes. But most of that crowd is just out to party on a Friday night. And we do not take it, and by it I mean some of the old, more archaic rules about wrestling, we don't take it seriously. Like, we are all aware that professional wrestling is a show. And so we take that to the most absurd degree we possibly can. If we try to present it as legitimate athletic competition, we're not fooling anybody at this point. Like, let's be honest about what professional wrestling really is. It's performance art. And if the only genre of performance art that we had was, if it was just one single genre, it would get boring real quick. Like if movies were only Disney movies, we would get sick of it real quick. There's no reason that we can't bust open professional wrestling to make it as accessible to as many different people as possible. And I think you've got strong style and British style, lucha libre and American style, but beyond that, there's no story you can't tell in pro wrestling. And Hoodslam tells some of the most insane stories that you've ever heard in your life. There's nothing we can't do at Hoodslam. When
I told my mother I was going to get into pro wrestling, she goes, "Okay, Steve, that's fine. Just change your last name." She was kidding because, she didn't want the embarrassment. She knew that there's no way I was going to make it. You have a degree in communications. When you started getting into this world, what did your mother think? And now that she goes to the shows every now and then, what does she think about your career choice and how much you love this business?
At the time, I was just a 13, 14-year-old kid, so it may have just been like, oh, that's nice. Like, whatever you want to do, I'll be proud of you, whatever you do. So she was supporting from day one, and my dad was too. They were both great about just being like, hey, if that's what you want to do, then go do it. For the love of God, finish college. But if that's what you want to do, go do it. They've been supporting me since day one, and my mom, when she comes to Hoodslam, she has such a good time. And I was worried about it at first because, like you said, I'm dropping F-bombs and I'm crude and vulgar and, I don't give a shit when I'm out there. I just let it fly. And so I was worried about doing that in front of my mom, just thinking she'd be, I don't know, embarrassed or not approve or something. When she's out there, she is beaming ear to ear. She could not be more proud. And, I couldn't be more thankful to have her and my dad's support just throughout my entire career. They've both been absolutely amazing, but it's pretty special that my mom's there at ringside and I can, pour a little Jack for her when I'm making the rounds with my Jack Daniels bottle.
Dude, do you have brothers and sisters, or are you the only one?
I got a sister who's 2 years younger than me, and we didn't get along particularly in our high school days, but now that we're full-grown adults, we get along great, and she's awesome. She's kind of amazing. She co-founded a solar company in Oakland called Powerhouse, and she's killing it, man. She's doing a hell of a job, and Emily, I'm super proud of you. Keep up the great work.
Hey, you got the wheel you're healing up. What's the rehab process on this? I know, but give me a timeline of when you think you'll be back 100%.
So they told me I was going to be in a brace and crutches for about 6 weeks, so that means another month or so. PT has already started, and I'm pretty much doing that as much as I possibly can until they tell me, too much. But they probably told me I'm not going to be 100% for 5 or 6 months. So that's kind of rough. But like I said, I've transitioned my contributions in wrestling to behind a microphone. So I don't need to be physically 100% to be able to contribute the way I contribute nowadays.
You mentioned that bottle of Jack Daniels. Do you drink?
No. Not really.
That's what I figured. I knew you're a body guy.
Me.
Yeah.
It's not for me. It's for
That's
the
good.
fans. Like I said, Hoodslam, it's a party. And so one of the things I do to kind of to throw in some nostalgia, I'll go out with as the band starts playing, I'll go out with my bottle of Jack and I'll give each side the Hulk Hogan ear. And whichever side's loudest, I'll go to that side of the ring and treat them with a couple of shots straight out the bottle. It's a great time. It's a great time.
What's next for you?
PT's my priority right now, but as I'm healing up, I'm not sure what's next, to be honest.
How serious are you about the acting?
It's a good question. I'm busy enough right now as it is. It's not going to make or break my life if I win an Oscar or not. I don't know that I love it as much as I love wrestling. And so I don't know how much... Because you and I were talking about looking into acting classes, and I looked around in the Bay Area and just to see what's out there, and I'm like, I don't know that it's enough of a priority that I want to devote that time to getting that much better in acting. I'm still having a great time doing all the things I'm doing at the level I'm doing it. I don't know if I want to make that my primary focus because I get bored easily. I think if I were to just do one thing day in, day out, I don't know that would be good enough for me. I don't know that would keep me super interested. So I like having my fingers in a lot of pies right now.
Man, when someone asks me what I see myself doing in 10 or 20 years, I never know because I don't even plan tomorrow. I just kind of wake up. I got a brother that's 2 years older than me. He has everything planned out. He has everything mapped out, and that's how he rolls. And I respect that, but it's not for me. 10, 20 years down the road, where do you see A.J. Kirsch?
With a house somewhere in the Bay Area, a wife, a kid, a dog, a driveway, a porch, maybe a little yard. I can see myself doing the exact same things that I'm doing now. I don't think maybe the Broseph thing at 54 might be a little bit weird. I don't know if I could get away with that. But I think I'm going to love pro wrestling till the day I die. I think I'm going to love performing in general. And I think I'm going to keep finding ways to keep it interesting for myself. But, I'm kind of the same way. I couldn't tell you what I'm doing. If I'm happy when I go to bed at night and I'm happy when I wake up in the morning, then, I think I'm doing okay.
Dude, you're in the Bay Area. Are you in between San Fran and Oakland? Where kind of specifically are you? Don't give me your actual address, but...
Right. I'm at 318 Gimmick Street.
Yeah. Are you close to Frisco?
Yeah, I'm in Berkeley, which is right next door to Oakland.
Before we wrap up, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, where can people find your website and talk about this Hoodslam event coming up?
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, they're both at A.J. Kirsch. That's Kirsch. You can like me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/I am A.J. Kirsch. And I've also got separate social media for Broseph because I like keeping some separation between the two. Instagram and Twitter is at BroJBrody. Facebook.com/BrosepJoeBrody. And if you just Google Hoodslam, you'll find everything you need to know about Hoodslam. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. It's all at Hoodslam. If you want to check it out, first Friday of the month, Oakland Metro Opera House. Tickets by searching Hoodslam on Eventbrite.com, or you can go straight to the website at birdswillfall.com.
Awesome. AJ, it was good catching back up with you, and best of luck to that wheel. And obviously, you and me are going to stay in touch over the phone. But it was good talking to you and see you on the video scope, as Randy Macho Man Savage would say.
The video scope. Well, I appreciate it, sir. Just the fact that I'm able to pick your brain about advice about anything, whether it's surgery or, working out or life or whatever it may be. I'm very grateful that we've been able to stay in touch. Yeah, man, this was fun. This was a lot of fun. It was good catching up.
Awesome talking with you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Steve. Thank you.
Have you checked out the Big Podcast with Shaq here at Podcast One? Yeah, we talk basketball, but we're a lot more than just sports.
I met this fabulous lady. She had to be in her 70s, knew everything about me, knew everything about sports. And the last thing she says, I love your podcast. And I was like, thank you very much. But I hate that John Kincaid.
That's terrible. Listen free to the Big Podcast with Shaq exclusively on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, and the Podcast One app. If you love the show, share it with a friend and leave us a rating and review.
All right, everybody, give me to go home. Q, it's time to wrap up his podcast and ride off in the sunset. But before I do that, I want to thank my guest, A.J. Kirsch, for joining me on the show today. It's been a long time since 2011 when Tough Enough rolled around. I've stayed in touch with A.J. and a couple of those cats, and it was great talking to A.J. and catching up with him. He's a very bright young man with a very high work ethic. I'm looking forward to him rehabbing his knee, getting back on track, and pursuing the things that he wants in his life. He's a very determined guy. He knows what he wants, and I suspect that he'll be highly successful from here on out. Thanks for joining me on the podcast, AJ. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Hey, man, ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin has all the Broken Skull Ranch shirts that I've been wearing on Broken Skull Challenge. That show is over. It was not renewed, but the shirts are still available, and they're at ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin. And the best damn IPA on the planet, and I can vouch for it because I know beer and I know IPAs, is Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company. You can get Broken Skull IPA at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in California. If you don't live in Cali, check InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. And if you're looking to get a badass pocket knife, I got two of them, the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife and the Cold Steel Working Man's knife. And you can get them at my new Amazon store. Amazon has the best price on both knives. Just go to Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin. And I got to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show, especially DDP Yoga, TrueCar, Geico, TheraWorks, and the WWE Network, where I raised hell every single Monday night. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page, and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. Folks, I am on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Steve Austin BSR. And until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I'll catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.